everybody. My name's Craig.
I'm Brian.
I'm Burke.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is Get Dunked On, the podcast.
Quit playing games with my heart. My heart.
Not where I thought you might go with this one.
What? Wait,
Yeah,
wait.
I don't know why I was not expecting that at all.
It's that Jason Bateman meme. Whatever show or whatever that was, when he looks in the bag, he goes, "I don't know what I was expecting." But for some reason, it wasn't that this time.
What were you expecting?
I didn't actually have an expectation. It just wasn't that.
That's kind of where I'm at, is where, like, I guess in my head, if I had to go back and retcon what my actual thought process was going to be, it would have been some kind of 80s song, like, and it would have had something to do with games, and I would have never heard of it. You'd have been like, what? You guys haven't heard of Hibidus Hibidus by the Hibidus? Come on, American classic. Let's take over the moon.
What Banjo-Kazooie character am I here, okay?
I was kind of expecting the Jeopardy theme song. That's kind of where I was going.
Well, to be fair with you guys, I didn't even think about what song I was going to sing until Craig said, "Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Dunked On." Oh, no! I forgot a song this week.
You gave it away. I've been telling people you do 7 days worth of research every time to make sure you get the best song for it.
They could listen to the show and know that's not true, but
That's awesome.
oh, man.
All right. So actually, kind of speaking of picking songs, so my mom and I are people who do not procrastinate when it comes to important things. So, like, at first when John proposed, I was like, okay, like, we're not getting married until sometime next year. Like, we can hold off. And then, like, 3 days later, she's like, all right, let's start planning. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. You know, we can do this. That's fine. And then I was fine with that because I was, like, kind of looking at a budget. So I'm like, I'm doing all this research on, like, do-it-yourself ideas, like, trying to keep costs down. Because the thing is like, my family is huge. And when I was searching the internet, like, pretty much what I was getting was the best way to keep down costs was to cut the guest list, you know, pretty common sense. But I was like, that's the one thing that I'm not willing.
Cut those fuckers out.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm not willing to cut out. So I was like, all right, like, I'm going to figure out how to do this, do it yourself for a lot of people and keep the cost down. So I'm like, okay, so I get all these ideas. I find some places that might work with this. And my mom's like, you know what? I found this place that'll do everything and I'm going to pay for it. And I was like, oh, okay. That's fine. And she's like, are you sure? Like, I don't want to upset you. She's like, I'm paying for the food, the open bar, the DJ. And I'm like, nope, you just have fun.
Wow.
you just do your thing. And,
That's awesome.
I'll just pick up the rest, I guess. Like,
Dang.
so I was
heard
like,
open bar, so I'm eagerly awaiting my invitation now.
yeah, I'm like sitting there like, okay, you know, I'm gonna figure out how to do this bar for low. And she's just like, no. She's like, I don't want to have to deal with the mess, you know. And I was like, and she's like, nope, we got this. So my parents are paying for the best parts of the party.
That's pretty awesome.
Nice. That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, and in the open bar, as Craig mentioned, is kind of a big deal on that too, because those things get so expensive.
My stepdad was like, my mom told him the price, which is a number that's about twice as much as I was aiming for total, but it's fine because it's not my money now. And
It's like total.
I was like, oh my God, like, he's gonna have a heart attack. And he was just like, does it include the liquor? And she's like, yeah. And he was like, okay, that's fine, we gotta have that. So I was like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Good man.
That's good. That was the first fucking thing off my list, was those guests, man. I hacked that right off. I was like, nope, we're keeping this cost down.
Yeah, we know.
We're trying to. I was like, we're gonna keep this
People are
as
still
cheap as
salty about
possible.
not being invited.
I was trying to even get it cheaper. I was trying to have less people than that. I was like, let's get 2 people. We're gonna go to a courthouse and we'll be done with this.
Yeah, so
But she said
I
no.
cut my guest list down to 140.
140. That's still
wow.
a solid
That's still
size. Like,
That's quite a bit of
that's
people.
pretty legit.
See, that's where my wedding started.
Oh no.
And then it went up to like 100.
Mine started at
400.
180.
I think
Oh my
how many
God.
people were at my wedding? Like 400, Craig? Something
I don't know.
ridiculous.
A lot more than I had.
A lot more than I
That's-
wanted.
Yeah. I just
That's
nope.
insane.
I didn't even get into that.
See, I don't even remember how many people were at my brother's wedding, but like it had to have been just over 100. So you guys are talking these numbers. I mean, that's bigger than our graduating class, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That was our entire.
We had 158 in our graduating class. So think about like how deep in rows that we had, just in terms of referencing how many people are at the wedding as well.
I had like 6 or 7 in my graduating class for high school.
Yep, 6 or 7 people. Yep, 6 or 7 people. Down
600 or 700.
That was our entire school, including Seth.
Fun fact for you about our school district, Burke, that I think that you might find interesting. We didn't have a nurse. Like, I found out later that apparently schools are supposed to have a nurse. We didn't have one at our district at all.
We had like 2 at our school.
They had somebody that they
were supposed
called
to.
the nurse, but they weren't actually a nurse. It was just like, oh, you're not running a fever, you're fine. Or, oh, you're running a fever, you got to go home.
It was the school secretary. And they gave her a thermometer and they're like, that now she's a nurse. It's like, that's not how nurses work.
Didn't give it to the PE teacher. Old Vern Miller's back there taking people's temperatures. They can be fine.
Just drink some water. Don't worry about it. You're fine. But I like how we're making references to a guy that no one has heard of.
That went over 900% of the people of that listen to this podcast. So like at least 3 heads.
God dang it!
And that's including me. That's awesome.
But he was both our gym coach, but he was also in charge of the sports, and so he was a lot of the games that we played. He was always involved in those.
Yep, he was always a part of the games that we played.
But he wasn't involved in the games that we would play when we were at home, aka things like board games.
No, he wasn't. No.
Well,
Transition.
That's debatable.
Wait, what?
Well, no, okay, it wasn't Mr. Miller. It was a different teacher. I was gonna say I can't remember his name right now. It's escaping me. Probably because I didn't like him. But I would say in chemistry class with it begins with an O. It's just escaping me. He taught chemistry, and I sat in the back of his class just playing euchre every day because I gave up in that class. And it was for whatever reason like the one subject that wouldn't click, so I just gave up, and I'm like, we just played euchre every day.
Yes, euchre was not played by anybody else in this podcast on during other classes.
I never played it.
Quiet you. Did we ever tell you two that story on the podcast?
No, we did not.
Oh my gosh, we went through and it was in Dencham's integrated math. What was it? Integrated math 2? Is that how it was called? 3 or 2 or
2 or 3?
I forget how the numbers worked in that thing. It was sophomore year though, and we went through and we brought in cards and we would play euchre in the middle of class, and eventually he would sit there and he would take them away. And so the next day, one of us would have another pack of cards. He'd take those away. Next day, someone else had a pack of cards. Took those away. Next day, we divvied up 52 note cards, and we all drew.
We made our own deck of cards out of note cards. This is true. I swear.
He tried to grab them away, and at that point, he was like, I interpreted it as this. I don't fucking care anymore. And he let us have those after that. We eventually, something happened, or like they became too marked because they're too easy to dirty up. And then we, out of the graph paper, out of the back, we made Battleship. Permanent lines out of the graph paper. We played Battleship against each other.
That's true.
We had the tables that were like 2 and 2, where you were, if you think of this like a big square table, 2 people are looking at 2 people, like you're kind of at a restaurant or whatever. At a booth or something. So that's how we were facing. So Brian and I were on one side. We were always playing. We were Battleship partners, but we were enemies in euchre.
That's right. And then we.
That's awesome.
What was the other thing that we used to do? Oh, that's right. We used to use this calculator to draw shit, like because it was the TI-80 whatever, and you could use it to draw things. So we would just sit there, play games and draw pictures and try to basically play Pictionary essentially.
Yeah. Were there any like games or like card games or board games that you would play during school?
That's no.
All right. What about just during like the high school timeage?
We played like not like when like outside of school.
Yeah. Okay. Outside of school, just that time frame.
like with my friends, we would play a lot of Halo.
Sounds like a card game.
No, we played probably played Risk a little bit, but a lot of my friends, it was more video games and or just going outside. But probably played Risk a little bit. I guess board and card games were more, I guess, with my family and whatnot.
So can I ask you a question about Risk? Because it's a game that I've always heard about, but I've never played.
Yeah,
I have no idea how Risk works.
That's like one board game that's like, I would say kind of popular that I've literally never played.
I am also in that boat.
God damn.
I played Axis and Allies and Diplomacy, which I think followed like the same concept, but
yeah, I'm out on those.
Axis and Allies is so you like, I would say you have Risk on Risk is all about strategy, right? I would call it probably on a level, maybe a 5 or 6 on strategy. Axis and Allies is up there. You have like 8 or 9 level. Just because
that game's complicated as shit.
It is super complicated. It takes forever to learn. Risk can take 3 to 5 hours. Axis and Allies can take 5 to 10 hours, if not more, because of
what?
Oh yeah, it is so in depth. Like you have the whole European theater going on in a game with the whole world going on at the same time. Like it's a crazy game. I've only played it once and I got smoked. But like I've played Lord of the Rings Risk and all those games tons of times, and those are fun. But what I don't like about those games is the chance kind of portion of it, with the dice, right? So you have all this strategy, and you can have like the best strategy in the game, and you can get fucked by dice, just by shitty rolls. Kind of like D&D, where Brian always rolls like 5s in combat, but outside of that he rolls 20s. Like you can have like a really good strategy, but you're gonna get fucked. Like and that's what I don't like about those games. But I played this game 2 weekends ago. I played it a couple times, and my buddy actually bought it when he was up here and had it Amazon. Gotta love Amazon. Had it shipped here, and it's called Scythe, like SCYTHE. And for me, it took like the what's the game? Settlers of Catan. Have any of y'all played that game?
I love that game.
Never played it, but I've seen it.
I have not.
If that makes any sense.
So Settlers of Catan, it's simple. Like it's decently complicated. I would call it like what would you call it on a strategy of like 1 to 10? Like
maybe a 7.
Yeah, like it's
I mean, you definitely have to have a plan.
Like, for me, I guess maybe by war games, I wouldn't rate it that high. I would call it 5 or 6, like maybe on the Risk level. But it's a lot simpler once you get to know it. Like you have to have resources. You have to like go to a goal. This game,
it takes like 2 hours to explain, but like 5 minutes in, you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. And once you can play it, you're like, oh, this is simple. Let's go. Let me set this board up. But this game, it takes kind of the hexagon kind of map strategy of Settlers of Catan, and but it's a same board, but you have different factions that you play, and you draw them randomly, so you get different types of gameplay each time you play, because you never know what faction and what kind of player board you're going to be. It's very complicated to set up. It took us like 3-4 hours to play the first game. Second game, it was an hour and I guess it was maybe 100 minutes, so a little bit hour and a half. But what I loved about this game was how intricate it was, and everyone starts on kind of their own island, and they have to expand in this world, and you can eventually come into combat with other people. But the combat system is what makes it good. You try not to get in combat, but when it happens, it's not luck of the dice. It is you have to, as you're expanding, you either have to pay power, which is your combat rating, or you can do other stuff, and that will affect how much combat you have. So let's say and you have other cards that I guess kind of have a luck factor into it, but like let's say, Brian, you have 7 power, I have 6 power, we're fighting each other.
Okay.
And then you have kind of cards that I don't know what are, and you don't that you don't know what are ranging.
Sure. So like I throw down a card that was like plus two
it's
bonus
basically
to
a 2 to
whatever.
5. So you have this little rating system, but like what you do, you pick your number out of you can pick 0 to 7 of your power to play, and I can pick 0 to 6 and play 1 card. And so I have to go, he can technically probably beat me unless I have maybe a 5 and he only has a 4, then we can tie, right? So you have to pick how much power you want to use in your attack. And so it's all about strategy, knowing your opponent, not you rolled a 5, I rolled a 4, I win, or you win, right? So it's
that makes
a little
sense.
bit different. It's a lot very strategically based, because you want to you want to win the battles, obviously. So you want to pick a fight with someone who doesn't have as much power, and that's what made me like the game. And there's like 5 or 6 different ways to win. The first person to get so many points ends the game. But then they don't win because they end the game. Then you have to have money to the person with the best economy and shit wins. It's so.
See, it kind of reminds me like a little bit of like a Sid Meier's
Civilization
type game.
It sounds like Civilization made into a board game.
A little bit, but it's obviously in a board game format, which is both good, which would be good. But as you said, it sounds like a very big time sink too.
The worst part is literally learning how to play. Once you learn how to play, like it is, you're going fast. Like people can play at the same time. You can't move at the same time and do combat at the same time, but you can do different. You can do different actions at the same time as someone else is moving. So the game just flies once you know how to do it. And it's probably one of the most complicated board games I've played, but also one of the most balanced and fun board games I've played.
See, it's kind of the opposite of kind of the opposite, but like talking about war games, I didn't really play a whole lot of war games. Like a lot of the ones that I played were, like all board games are all strategy based, but. For example, Stratego. That was one that I loved as a kid. I compared
this combat towards Stratego, because you have a 9, I have a 1.
Right, and one wins every time because the one was the best.
I don't know what you're gonna play against mine, which is awesome.
Right. Well, and the thing about Stratego was you got cheeky. Yeah. I don't know, Michelle, Craig, do you guys remember that game at all?
I haven't actually played that one either.
Stratego, or did you just name a game called Cheeky?
Stratego.
No, Stratego.
You cheeky bastard.
No, I didn't play either.
The purpose of that one was like you had you had a board. Imagine like a with a lot more squares, like chess type board. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but just a big board there, and you have your army and their army, and basically what you do is that the goal is to capture your enemy's flag, and they have to put it somewhere. And you don't know where they put it. And then it's up to you to build your defenses around it. Now, like for me, when I was a kid, say the cheeky strategy, the one that I always did was quite simple. It was flag in the corner, of course, because of course, so then you'll have to defend 2 sides instead of 3. But you put the flag in the corner, then you layer it, flag, bombs, 1, 2, bombs, like so that way like you'd have to get through literally a layer of bombs, which can only be diffused by the 5s, then my best men, my 1s and 2s, and then another layer of bombs. It's like to get to it. My offense non-existent, defense, but my defense the best ever, because I just literally had to sit and wait, funny. And then they would just but when it comes to these games, the thing that what I was originally trying to say before I went on a Stratego tangent was the amount of time sink, and that plays a big factor into it. For example, Monopoly as a kid was like the worst game on earth to me, because it took 100 years to play. I remember I went over to a kid in our grade. His name was Derek. I went over to his house when we were kids, and he insisted that we play Monopoly. I wanted to play Doom in Contra, but he wanted to play Monopoly. So we ended up playing Monopoly because it was a sleepover at his place, and I only slept over one time, and I never did it again, because we were up to like 3 a.m. playing this game, and I was like, "You win! I don't care! You win!" Like I just wanted to go to bed so bad. Like I hated it as a kid, but as an adult, I play that game. I think I'm trying to think of the real name of it, Fortune Street, which is essentially Monopoly, but it's it's on it's a board game you play on the Wii. But the point
I
is
love
that
that game.
I do too. It's a ton of fun, and it's basically straight up Monopoly. But it, as I said, as a kid, had no patience for it though.
So
None.
Yes, as a kid I had, and as an adult I do. I totally didn't.
No, I don't. I'll never like you did exactly what you wanted to do with that game. You will never play that again.
Like Monopoly as a kid. I mean, if the game wasn't over in an hour as a kid, I was done. Like I would just walk away because I'm like, I am so bored, or I would have been probably too chaotic for my family to even care to go on. But then when I was up for Tony's wedding, we played Fortune Street, and about 20 minutes into it, I just lost all interest. So I started making the stupidest deals to completely sway power back and forth between people. I'd go through and I'd have something
the game entirely.
I would have some property that would be super property for that would be super valuable to somebody or valuable to two people, and I would just like give it away. It'd be something they're like, oh, it's worth, I'm making this up, but oh, it's worth 1,500 units. And I'd be like, okay, take it for 6. I don't care. Yeah. And I'd give it away. And then later on, I'd go back and I'd land on something and I could buy it out from underneath them for like 8 times its value. And they're like, okay, that's funny. There's no way. And I'd be like, I'll take it, and completely ruin somebody's Monopoly over in a corner. I had
the game won. I had the game won, and then we could have been done. He literally managed to drag the game out for 3 more hours. Awesome. I'm not kidding. 3 hours. It was like 1 a.m. We're all looking at him like, go to hell.
Like the biggest thing for me that made me know that I accomplished what I needed to. Brett, who is the most competitive, I think out of our entire team, or out of our entire group of friends, I think he's the most competitive. He literally was like, I don't care, end this game. I'm done. You win. Yeah. I don't care. He would never give away a win. We always made fun of him in high school because he would keep track of points of anything you ever played. Like, oh, let's just shoot some baskets around. We're not even actually playing against each other. He would remember, oh no, you made 27 shots. I made 28. He would like remember all this stuff. Always was counting. This one, he was like, I don't care. Awesome. I don't care. Please end this. This is terrible.
So I can count on one hand how many times I played Monopoly. It's 1. It's
what?
1. Like we had it growing up, never played it. I always played with the little car thing going around the track, but I never played it. I played.
What was your piece?
A little car. Yeah, of course.
Wait. I'm sorry. Okay. I want you to finish. Craig, what was your piece?
I literally think I played it once and I have no idea.
Michelle, what's your piece?
The thimble or the dog.
I was the car. All right,
so I remember playing it and I was like, I don't know. I understood the rules. It's a simple game, right? So I would just make stupid deals like Craig. I was like, whoever I wanted to win or have a better round, I would go, I'll trade you this and let you only pay half of this. Like make up these stupid arbitrary rules because it's business. God. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. It was fun. And just screwed everybody. But I actually won because of it.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, I mean, do we all have? I'm assuming that we all have that one friend or that one person that you would play games with that you're like, okay, they're clearly just doing this just to screw with people. Like Craig's story, of course, is he did that with Fortune Street. Can anyone else think of another person that was like, if they're going to lose, they flip the board, or the person who they just were not the person to play board games with?
No, my friends take board games pretty seriously.
Yeah, and there's times that you can have the friends that take it too seriously.
That's me sometimes.
But I feel like the only thing I had was I had it, and I won't mention their name. I had a friend that growing up that would get very, very sad and mopey when they started losing. They would keep playing, but like you basically ruined, like if you were spending the night, you're having a sleepover and you beat this person in a game like handily, and they really thought they were going to win it. Like completely just would shut out and was like, the child form of depressed. I think they may have been partial acting. I don't know, but just completely
such a lonely day.
Just completely shut down, and it like brought the mood down of everybody. Luckily later on in life, we're all like, okay, fuck you. we would move on. But like, when you're 8 to like 13, 14, at least as a guy growing up, you're very much like, oh, okay, like I feel really bad because this person feels really bad. And so then you'd end up doing things that they wanted to do later just because they wanted to do, and you're trying to, but once you hit a certain age, we're like, okay, this is fucking stupid. We're done. Oh, you don't want to do this anymore? We're out. See ya. We're gonna go play Halo.
So actually that happened to me. I think I was on a cruise and I was with some of my buddies and we were playing Phase 10. And by the way, I fucking hate Phase 10. Have you?
I love that game.
Like I grew up.
I don't know what Phase 10 is.
Did you ever play Rummy? Okay.
No, I didn't play Rummy either.
Basically, it's a game where you have to make first round is what you have to get a run of 3 and a pair or a set of 3, and then it just grows. You have to get like a set of 4 and a run of 4, and it just goes up, and you have to do random weird shit with the 10 cards you draw. And so, anyways, there was a time like I was kicking ass, like I got to Phase 9 or 10 perfectly. And then I lost just because that's how stupid the fucking game. It's all based on your the luck of the draw. And I remember when I was on the cruise, I had this beat, I was winning, and finally someone came up and just beat me. I just fucking threw my cards. I'm like, fuck this game. It just ran off. I was like, I want to go drink myself into oblivion because I'm so pissed off. And like, and of course my buddy's daughter was there. She's like, is he okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I just don't like losing. It was just like I still play the game. Like I played like 4 or 5 games the last week. I just don't. It's not one of my favorite games.
Yeah, I can honestly relate a little bit in the sense that I've had people do that with me, like, but not because I was winning, but because they just get frustrated for one game, and that's chess. No one will play chess with me because I know how to play chess. I understand what the mechanics, how each player
moves.
moves.
Upon like 7 and knock over 3 people at once. You're like, I win. You're like, I don't get why people don't want to play chess with me.
Like here's the deal. I understand all the mechanics of how the pieces move in chess, right? I get it. Yep. I get it. Strategy, I have none. I literally move the pieces based on how I feel at the moment, and so people are like, "Why?" They
all look 0 moves ahead.
What's the point? Is that like I'm moving all the pieces? I'm moving all the pieces around the board, and they're like, and they go, "So what are you like? What are you trying to do?" And I go, "I'm playing chess." And they're like, "Well, no. I mean, like, what's your end goal?" I'm like, to finish this game, like I guess I was hoping to win. They're like, well, like, no, it was
like,
basically like I'm sitting there moving stuff around the board, and then they'll either just utterly be stomping me, or like I'll get a couple lucky shots in, kind of a thing. And they're like, well, what's your what strategy are you using? I'm like, I don't know. Like, just leave me alone. I hate this. Like I don't know. I like chess, but I don't have planning. So
we need to have a chess tournament for us. All of us, the 4 of us. If none of us look ahead, that would be the greatest. It would just be the biggest shit show. People, quote pro chess players looking at like, the fuck is happening?
Each game's over in under 3 minutes.
Oh my god.
Like, are they playing speed chess? No.
I love check.
Speaking of people getting mad at Brian, and I'll throw myself into it for playing a game, was the game Cranium.
Oh my God, yes.
We used to go up and play Cranium at our buddy's cabin up north in the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. And people used to get so pissed. We were not allowed on teams anymore.
That's true.
So for people that haven't played Cranium, and Brian, interject if I get something wrong here, there's basically like 4 different sections of it. If I remember right, there's 4 different types of questions. You move around a board, and depending on what you land on, what color you land on, you pull a card. And one of them is like, you get to mold something out of clay or draw something, and the people have to guess.
Create a cat.
Yep. Thank you.
That was the name of the.
And there might be other little like modifiers and whatnot on there, but I'm just going to go for the basics. There's one that's basically just a question, and you might have four like a multiple choice type question. I don't remember if there was like a fill in the blank type stuff on it or not, but it was just a straight up, here's knowledge question, do you know this fact? And then there was the charades.
Isn't there like and hum a song?
Yeah, there was a charades version. Do you remember what the name of that was, Brian? I don't remember.
Charades, I don't remember, but the humming is called Humdinger.
Yep. So was that just its own section, or was that just a part of the acting one?
That one was a part of the acting section.
Oh, and the other one was like spelling, a lot of like
Bookworm,
bookworm or something like that.
Is,
and it was a lot more linguistic based, where you're rearranging letters or trying to figure out.
Data Head was the other one. That was the one.
That was red. That was Data Head. The bookworm was yellow. Blue was the creative cat, and
Star Performer.
Yeah, and so we had it to where they would not let us play on a team anymore. And the worst team I think there was me, Brian, and Brett. When we would play, because Brett had a bunch of other random knowledge. I was pretty good with words, and then just Brian and I were completely in sync for anything that was charades or humdinger related. We would do charades, and it would be like Brian would do about 3 motions with his hands, and I'm like, the annexation of Puerto Rico. People be like, what the fuck was that? How did you get that? I was like, I don't know. It just made sense.
That game was so much fun.
That happened to my cousin and I playing Taboo. Have you guys ever played that?
Yes.
Because we had so many like inside jokes and shit that like we would be able to use those to get words, and my sister's this is not fucking fair. Like,
we did play Taboo because me and Kirk weren't allowed. Me and Kirk were the ones that kept wanting to play, and nobody else wanted to play it when we were up north. I don't remember. And then
that was
that was another one that you and I were not allowed on a team.
That's true.
Me and you weren't allowed on a team, and me and Kirk weren't allowed on a team. So it was always you and Kirk on one team and me on the other. After a while, and to the point where they literally took the thing away and took the batteries out, because we would sit there and play it without anybody else there. They'd all be sitting around the fire, and we'd be like, we'd hit it and start going through the list of it, and people are like, oh my god, stop, we're trying to have a conversation, and like, we're gonna drink around the fire, and the 3 of us are over in a corner like busting each other, whatever it was.
Circle.
Oh my god, that was so much fun, and they hated us for it. We just weren't allowed to play those games after a while.
I loved those games. Those are some of the funnest games in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Now that we're sitting here talking about it, like, I guess I didn't like put it together until we sat down and started discussing all these things out loud. But like, my favorite games are the party games. Like, board games are okay, and I don't have a problem with them, but like, I like the ones that get people up and moving, and they're involved and like
animated.
For example,
I'm the opposite now. I used to be like the party games. Like growing up, I have a lot of fond memories with the party games. But now, like for board game nights, I want to play. I have a couple games that are completely co-op that I want to play, and I have like strategy games, and I'm like, that's what I want to play now as an adult.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, for some reason, I like the ones where you get like a group of people and everyone's just yelling over one another. And like, so for example, I mean, it isn't charades or anything, but hold on, I got it right here. Plug this out of the closet.
Pictionary.
I got my big box. Got my big box of Pictionary here. I love Pictionary. It's probably arguably one of my all-time favorite games. Just because I like drawing in general, but more importantly, I like the fact that you have to speed draw and like this.
Play the Chromecast version of it.
Just like the stuff that some people come up with, like was it's the funniest thing you'd ever want to see. Like, I'm trying to remember what it was, but like for example, last time I played Pictionary, somebody tried to draw like a monkey, right? And so they drew like basically a person and like a bunch of like little lines on them that was supposed to be the hair, but it just looked like a person with a skin disease. So we're like leprosy. Like nobody could know, no one knew what it was supposed to be. And we're like, just add a tail. Like, why would you not put the big ears and a tail? But it was like just a dude with like with weird lines on him.
I can imagine someone sitting there drawing it. They're like, okay, and I'm gonna get the fur on there. And Brian's like, leprosy, and it just turns into like. What?
No, like
I went from
literally a person
to disease.
It was a person. Like they didn't even like think that like, well, monkeys are like people. It's like no, they're not like people. It's quite a difference. You could have drawn a Boo, and I would have gotten it.
You could have drawn a tree.
See, what I love too is sometimes when I love this part when you're going through and playing, and like let's say I'm the one drawing, I'm panicked to try and get something out there, and it'd be something along those lines where I'd be like, fuck, a tail. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of tail? And at the time you feel stupid, but it's the times I look at it now where I'm like, that's hilarious that you're sitting there so focused on one aspect of this drawing that you miss.
And they were focused on the hair.
You miss the obvious.
Yeah, you miss a massive obvious thing of just trying to get them to say one particular thing, and you're going for all these like really minute details, or at least that's what I do. And I always fuck those things up, and everybody's like, "What the hell is that supposed to be?" I'm like, "Well, it's this." Like, why wouldn't you add the tail? I'm like, shit, I should have added a tail. Why did I not think of that?
But then you
put a vest on him. I'm like, well, Magilla Gorilla wears one.
But I'm saying that you spend the rest of the night laughing at that. You know what I mean? And then you like the next time you go to sit down to play, you're like, hey, remember the tail situation? But like that's why I like those types of games. I feel, but I guess Twist My Arm. Those are my go-tos.
I would say right now, as an adult, if I don't count D&D in there, because I just love how that takes up a lot of like creative space. But I think my favorite, if you're doing like I think any type of game, but like the party games are the ones where I know Ellen's got her little like exact version of it, but it's just the one where you put something up on your head.
Oh yeah.
Like a heads up type thing. It doesn't even have to be an app or whatever, but you just have something up there and other people are doing charades to act it out. And it's the funniest ones is when it's like, there's a group of people that have to act it out. And there's one person up there guessing, like, and so all of a sudden everybody just starts running in place, and then there's the one person off on the side that looks like they're sweeping, and you're like, wait, what the fuck am I getting out of this? Or just something like that. I don't even have a word that would go with, but there's always like this one person that's thinking completely differently, and you're looking over and you go, okay, where are you going with this?
I
those are my favorite right now.
Rebecca. I know that most of you know who Rebecca is. I don't know if Burke just met her, but the point is that whenever
she's my best. She's a good friend.
Okay, but the point is that whenever we play these, you say that game specifically, Craig, that you're talking about. We use the heads up version. We put it up, and she will look at it and literally be right in your face, going, "Oh!" And I'm like, just start acting like we're already 30 seconds in, and she's going, like, and she just, I'm like, just act anything at this point, and then she'll just start laughing, and then I'm like, I don't know, comedian, you're laughing, like, and then it's like, oh, time's up, it's over. But yeah,
my favorite are the ones where people like they can't say a word or like certain words or anything like that, and they constantly do the one thing they're not supposed to do, and every time they're like, wait, what? Oh, okay. That happens over and over and over again.
I actually have played that with my grandparents, and bless their hearts, they can't do that. Like, they can't do the acting thing or think quickly. It's like that. It's like you'll have the rest of the family, they're like, it's Bob Saget, because someone just did something absolutely stupid, and then they're just like, squirrel. Like, no, it's a rabbit, something just completely opposite. I just love the whole dynamic.
But Michelle's kind of in the other boat where she, likes it a little bit more chill, I guess, and that's okay.
Well, it's not always like completely chill. So, for example, one
3
of the
people got stabbed last time
that I really love playing right now. It's a 4-player cooperative board game, and it's called Ghost Stories.
Oh, I never heard of that
one. It's kind of like how we were talking earlier, where it takes like a couple hours to really go through all the rules, but once you actually start playing, it's not that difficult. But the game's difficulty level is ridiculous. So the board game gives you rules for 4 different levels of difficulty. Our success rate for the first level of difficulty is about 10%.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's
insane.
Very, very difficult to actually win the game. And it's entirely strategy with a little bit of luck. But yeah, it's like really difficult. So we're always trying to come up with strategies. And I think even the one time we won, we didn't randomize it. We set it up to what we thought would be like the ideal setup, and that's how we won. And so that's a board game that we've been playing a lot. And I like trivia games because I'm generally pretty good at trivia. And what's another game we've been playing lately? Oh, we've been playing this one called Spyfall, which is really fun. So you have like this book, and it's got, I think, 30 different locations in it. And what happens is a deck of cards gets passed to everybody, and it's going to be all from one place. And it'll give you like a role for that place. So example, for a cruise ship, like somebody might be cruise passenger and somebody might be the activities director, and yada yada yada.
Gotcha.
And one person's a spy. And you go around and you have so many minutes to go through, and you kind of just ask questions to each other to try to figure out who's with you and who the spy is. So you might be like, oh, what's the weather like today? And if somebody's like, oh yeah, it's beautiful, but like your location's like underground sewer, you're gonna be like, oh, they're probably not in this. And I don't know,
That's actually pretty clever.
It's super
That's kinda
fun
like,
because you have to figure out like, you know, who's with you and who's not, and the spy's trying to figure out the location based on what other people are saying.
That's really cool. It's like the board game. I guess it's kind of like Clue, I guess, without the murder.
Yeah, sort of.
Or like a murder mystery
And then
party. That's awesome.
Codenames is another one we've been playing a lot
Spy
too.
Hunter. I'm gonna have to write that one down.
Yeah, it's called Spyfall.
Spyfall.
And then Codenames is fun too. And then Cards Against Humanity is like our party game of choice.
You know, Cards Against Humanity I find that game to be very, very fun, but it really, well, it just depends on the group you're with.
Yes,
Because
very
I
much so.
played the game in different scenarios. Like I played it with one group and I was like, oh, hilarious. And then I played with another group and they're like, this is not funny. I'd rather play apples to apples. And I'm like, oh,
The G-rated version.
well, no,
We used to play
that's
that a
what
lot
it
in high
is.
school.
Apples to apples is the G-rated version of that game.
Yes.
And even then, I can still find a way to make it bad, and I do, and they
The only
don't think
thing
it's as funny.
I don't like about Cards Against Humanity is people, and I guess this is, we were kind of talking about this earlier, so I can see how people would get frustrated with us, but I find that people get hung up on inside jokes a lot. And
Yes.
if you play with like the same people over and over, especially, like it gets to the point where it's like, you know, certain cards, you know who's gonna win already if they have the right card.
Yeah.
Like I have a group of friends who like literally have a rule that if the dead parents card comes up, you have to play Batman if you have it, and that's gonna win. And it's like, well, what's the fun in that? Because we already know this.
Yeah, that's not. You're right. That is kind of not as.
Yeah, that's definitely the case on things. I think it's if you have a group of people that are all good friends and like good enough to where there's not like the couple. I guess how I'll put it is, let's say that all of us, you know, plus two other people were in a group and we all had our significant others with us, type thing, where all of us are playing cards. The four of us would be playing cards that we know the others are going to laugh at, you know, and then maybe we don't know the significant others as much. So it's kind of like when we get there, I like it when it's just a big group that everybody's pretty much the same level of friendship to where everybody's trying to, you know, you can play certain things to get wins on certain people. So it's kind of luck of the draw, but it's also a little bit of fun because you're trying to play on the relationship things that you have had. But I do Cards Against Humanity for me is a really fun game when you have the right group, because when you have the group that like, there's a couple cards that go out there, it ruins the night. Somebody plays something and they're like, no, I'm getting rid of this card. We're not using this. Like, okay. Well, I'm not using this card. This is dumb. I'm putting this away and I'm just completely redrawing here. I'm like, well, this is kind of ruining the fun of the game when there's 3 or 4 people that are constantly like, oh, nope, I can't play this one. I won't even touch it.
It's like you go to an R-rated movie and then you're surprised when there's like something bad on screen and you're just going, oh, wait, I didn't know it was that type of movie. It's like, it's R. Like that's the like don't play the game or don't watch the movie if you know it's whatever.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And what I did to combat the whole Batman thing you were talking about, Michelle, was like play the funny card. Don't play for me. Like play something that's going to be funny. And like I don't care about winning those games, whatever. I didn't know there's a point system. But like just play the funny card. That's all I want. That's all I want. So
yeah, if you make me laugh, you win.
That's pretty much what it is for me.
That's how you should play the game, or piss someone off, if you're being mean.
Gotta have thick skin to play games with us kids.
Yeah, you do.
You better be ready for any type of thing to be said at any point, because we're all going for the laugh and sometimes the awkward silence.
Well, hey, you can't hit a home run if you don't swing hard or swing big, right? Sometimes you miss the ball entirely.
I love in that game when something comes up and someone's like, I don't know what that is, and you're like, oh, honey. You're about to learn.
First off,
Yes.
And then they Google it and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like the worst time, because then everyone's making fun of them. But I love those people.
oh yeah, but
Oh my gosh, what if you made a rule that if you didn't know what something was, you had to immediately Google image it?
pass on that.
That would be awful.
Even I don't want to play that version of the game.
Awful.
Because the more depraved you are, the more you're set to, you don't have to Google anything.
Yeah, I know.
When you stared into the abyss, there's nothing that scares you anymore. But I'm like,
When all links lead to 4chan.
well, I just like the fact that the way Michelle put it, though, is like, I just picture Burke saying to somebody after they see that they don't know what it is, he goes, oh, honey. I was like, yeah, I can see Burke saying it that way. Yep.
Oh, speaking of not knowing things, that's pretty much going to be me in this week's quiz.
That's what it always says, so he's going to win.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's true, Craig. You can't say that every week, because every time you say that, you win.
Good luck charm.
Shut up.
This is pregame ritual.
You're going to jinx me now.
Knock on wood.
Burke, do you have the order?
It is going to be Brian, Craig, Burke.
I love going first.
Nice. All right, this quiz is pretty straightforward. 18 questions. Most of them are pretty short answers. So
Uno,
we should go.
Monopoly, Jenga.
No.
How did Brian and I both unprompted both just start answering shit? I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
All
that was
right,
awesome.
question number 1. What is the original name of Mr. Monopoly?
That would be Sir Penny Moneybags.
Link money bags. There's an amoeba right next to me.
I'm going to go with Rodney Dangerfield.
All right, I'm gonna give Craig and Brian half a point. They're close. It's Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Hey!
Was his original name, and then some genius was like, no, let's just change it to Mr. Monopoly.
Oh man, I was glad I didn't go with my first option, which was Scrooge McDuck.
And now Mr. Monopoly's running Halo 2 games.
So this answer you guys will probably find horrifying based on your earlier feelings of Monopoly. What is the record for the longest running game of Monopoly?
It's probably still going on, so that's. I'm gonna go ahead and say my joke answer is the infinity symbol, but my real answer is going to be 14 hours.
11 hours, 11 minutes.
I'm going to go with 18 hours.
Okay, Burke is technically closest. The answer is 70 days.
Oh!
Was there sleep involved?
No, they all died.
I honestly, I don't.
They all died.
They had time enough to call in plumbers, install toilet seats where they were at, so they didn't have to ever stop playing.
There's no way 70 days.
I don't think it was necessarily 70 days continuous, but I think they were just playing every day over the course
So like
of
for
70
like
days.
30 minutes a day or something at max.
Yeah,
or something.
I'm not sure. I kept finding the 70 days, but not actually like a story behind it.
Wow.
It's on the internet. It's got to be true.
We should start a game, call Guinness, and say we'll finish it later, and then like like 3 years from now, like just go like, oh, we beat it.
We'll finish it later.
How much was the most expensive version of Monopoly ever made?
That would be.
This is in US dollars.
Yeah, no, definitely. That would be the $10,000 solid gold edition.
And Brian, you know I didn't do this purposely, but
You
$11,000.
son of a.
I'm going to go with the 14 karat gold version, Bob, and say 15,000.
Okay, Burke is technically closest again. So it was a gold. It was 23 karat, and the dice were
Holy
diamond
shit.
studded, and it was worth $2 million.
I was going to. Well, My actual
Are you
answer would be
serious?
like $100,000.
What if they made the dice literally just carved it, like carved diamond and made it full die? Like one big piece of diamond was made into the die.
Well, you'd first
Like,
off have to get a big old African blood diamond to make this whole dream of yours happen. Like,
Think about that. What if it was like some ridiculously pure diamond and they're like, we're going to make Monopoly dice.
it's like my entire village died to bring this diamond. I'm sure that's going to a museum, right? No, it's making some rich asshole who won't even play it. Like, so
We're gonna put you guys are gonna put a laser through this and create some awesome technology to get us water, right? To be able to feed to start watering the crops around our village. No, we're gonna play Monopoly.
think about how bad that would scuff up that board too, like dropping diamonds on it because it's like it's chipping everything. Like it falls on your floor, puts a hole in it. It's shit. It's like it's the worst.
Yeah, over 2 million. Pretty ridiculous. So funny story, until I read this question, actually one of the things on my bucket list was to eventually collect one of every version of Monopoly because I just love the game. And I saw this and I was like, well, we're giving up that dream.
You're like it'd be easier to climb Everest than it would be to obtain.
Well, better start training for Everest.
All right. Question number 4. The oldest set of what game was featured in the filming of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
Oh, for
This is probably
God's
pretty easy.
sake! How
Say
shit
that
would
one more
anyone
time.
know this?
Say it one
The
more time.
oldest set of what game was featured in the filming of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
Chess.
I thought this was too obvious.
I don't know chess.
Sorry, I forgot I was second. Chess.
It's just chess.
Yeah. Okay. So you're all gonna get the point.
Wow, I got lucky. That was a
Yeah. So
stab.
the set that they used in the filming was made somewhere in Scandinavia before the 12th century.
Holy shit.
Like, it's like a relic chess set, and they're like, "Yeah, let's just use it in the filming of Harry Potter."
Let's give this to 8-year-olds to play with during the Christmas scene.
What?
No, it was the McGonagall set. It was like that life-size set.
Yes.
Made in the 12th century from
It's in Scandinavia. It would make sense.
They had to fucking ship it over to the lot in London.
All right, question 5. In 1985, Lieutenant Commander Waghorn and Lance Corporal Gill played Scrabble for 5 continuous days because they had nothing else to do. Where were they?
This is what year?
1985.
They were
I don't expect anyone to get this. I just thought it was hilarious.
stuck in Russia trying to beat the commies.
No, Brian. Clearly, they were in space.
Spies.
Damn it, that was my answer too. They were in space.
Okay, so none of you are going to get the point. They were actually stuck in a crevice in Antarctica. And I guess
I'm so mad.
somehow they got
owns
stuck
that?
with the Scrabble set, so they just started playing Scrabble to help pass the time.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh. I wouldn't have said crevice. I'd have been like they were stuck in Antarctica, but I was like, no, space is more dumb of an answer.
Wow.
Question 6. What is the only letter you cannot use in any of the 124 acceptable English 2-letter words in a game of Scrabble?
X.
Well, Z's out because there's za.
Gotta get
Good one, Craig.
Gotta get that za and some Chivos tonight. We're drinking my dew.
Let's go. Let's
Did
go
Brian answer?
weird.
Yeah, I
I'm
said
gonna
X.
go R. I'm gonna go R.
I'm gonna go Z.
Okay, so the answer is actually the letter V.
Damn.
What about va?
Gotta get some piva. Gotta get some piva, man. Get some cheese on this.
Oh no! This is a derailing podcast. Choo choo.
We're gonna get back on track here.
No way.
Number 7. What food item was the original name for the game Twister?
I'm sorry. What food item was what?
The original name for the game Twister.
Dippin' Dots.
Fuck off so much.
Oh yeah, I got Michelle to go away for Rise. That's what it's Yay! Yeah, beat Dippin' Dots, fuckers. Good luck.
Well, originally I was gonna say string beans as like my joke answer, but like I can't beat fucking Dippin' Dots. So let's just go with like licorice / Twizzlers. Like I don't know if they need generic or specific.
God damn it! I was going to say Twizzlers.
Okay, so the answer is actually pretzel.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
No, Dippin' Dots is a little
It's
closer.
actually a logical answer, but Dippin' Dots was hilarious.
Hilarious enough for a half point?
Sure.
Yeah!
Oh, hilarious.
It's her
All right, question number 8. Battleship was one of the first board games ever to have this type of version released in the year 1979.
One of the first type of ones to have a travel version.
That's a good fucking answer.
Thank you.
That is a good answer. I like that answer.
See, I can give bullshit versions and fun real ones.
I'm gonna go with the opposite, the extra large version.
The XL, the new 3DS XL Battleship.
I'm going to go with a battery operated.
Okay, I'm gonna give the point to Burke because he's on the right track. It's actually the computer version.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I liked your guys' answers a lot more than mine.
All right, number 9. What 2 letters appear only once each on the same cube in Boggle, and why?
I guess I don't understand the question.
can
What
you say that
letters?
So there's 2 letters in the alphabet. They only appear once, and they're on the same cube, and there's a reason for that.
Wow. I'm gonna go ahead and guess E for no reason other than I'm just guessing E.
Okay, and your second letter?
A.
My joke answer is Q and U because that would be funny to me.
Damn it, that was my answer.
They're like, fuck Q, you words.
Shit, I have to think of something else.
I'm going to go with Q and Z because
Alright.
fuck the word quiz.
Yeah, I'll go with Q and U because that was my original.
Okay. No, the answer is actually F and K so that nobody can spell fuck.
What?
Yep.
Again,
True
stupid.
story. They put the F and the K on the same cube so that they would never be in play together.
That's dumb.
So
And nobody
every other
can-
word's in play, but not that one.
Not that one. That's
Wow.
drawing the line.
I could start rattling off words a lot of other people find more offensive than that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Oh shit.
That's one of the reasons I found it so hilarious because I'm sure back whenever Boggle was invented that probably was serious, but nowadays it's like
now it's like that's what Billy says when he reads his report card. He's just like,
Pixar's allowed to have one of those in their movie every time.
Woody.
Just one, otherwise they lose otherwise they lose their PG status.
Woody, where's your fucking toy? Oh god, there it is. That's the one that got me.
all right, number 10. Which board game was at the center of one of the first disputes ever for a website name?
Oh no. That would be Monopoly. I have no idea.
Okay, what was the question again?
Which board game was at the center of one of the first disputes over a website name?
Monopoly is kind of a good punny answer.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was thinking about. Shit. I don't want to use Monopoly. Sorry. I'll go with sorry.
Okay. Monopoly is a hilarious answer.
I was going to go with Risk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't know.
I thought Monopoly was your answer.
No.
Monopoly is a hilarious answer, but the answer is actually Candyland because Candyland.com in the mid 90s was a porn site name.
Oh.
Hold on. I'm going to verify if it still is. Nope. recognize it. Damn.
Number 11. What board game was very likely the inspiration for the phrase "back to square one"?
Shoot. Oh man. I'm gonna say Candyland again because I'm pretty sure that it had a thing on there that says like go back to start.
I'm gonna go with Connect 4.
I'm gonna go with Chutes and Ladders.
Burke's actually going to get the point. It is Chutes and Ladders.
Fuck you, Berkey.
The game was invented a long time ago, and the story I found was basically saying that it was invented in India as a metaphor for, you know, how easily you can climb up and then how you can just easily fall back down. And since there's like that one giant one that takes you all the way back down to square one, that's likely where that phrase actually came from.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was like, that one fucking slide.
Yeah, when I was reading that, I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting.
I never played that game.
I played it once, if that.
I remember the first time I opened the box, I was so excited because the box showed a bunch of kids sliding down, and I thought it was going to be like Mousetrap, and you were like actually sliding back down. Nope, I was fucking disappointed. God, this is stupid.
So really, the only real winner on that one was the advertisers.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 12. Which board game was the first non-coffee product ever sold at Starbucks?
The first Checkers. I have no idea. Like Starbucks, like I've set foot in a Starbucks like a handful of times in my life, and I don't drink their coffee, so I have no idea. So that's sure Checkers.
Jay and Silent Bob Monopoly.
Checkers was actually my answer.
Okay, the answer is actually Cranium.
What?
Which I thought was interesting because you brought up that game, but that was the first thing Starbucks sold that wasn't coffee was the game Cranium.
Wow.
So bonus question here that I guess you can all go for. It was also the first board game sold at what other two retailers?
I'm gonna say Borders Books and the other
Not
retailer.
even Barnes and Noble, just Borders.
Fine, and Barnes and Noble. Fuck you, then. I'm adding that in there too.
Oh yeah, Borders and Circuit City.
There it is.
I'm gonna go with Walmart and Target.
Okay. So Brian will get a point for Barnes and Noble.
Hey!
It's actually Barnes and Noble and Amazon. So that was the first board game both of those two carried.
Well, there you go.
Competitors, what do you know?
All right, number 13. Which family-friendly board game originally featured spaces relating to suicide, disgrace, poverty, and prison in its original version?
Life.
Yeah, I was gonna go with the Game of Life.
Same.
Yep, that is the Game of Life originally had all that, and they were like, oh, maybe that's not a great idea for families.
Every family loves it. Oh.
Until
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Number 14. Although incredibly unlikely, how quickly can someone win in a two-person game of Monopoly?
are we looking for like turns or minutes?
Time.
Oh, time.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess 15 minutes.
I'm gonna guess 11 seconds.
I'm gonna guess 25 minutes.
All right, Craig is closest. So it's actually 21 seconds. So this is assuming that everyone, is very quickly moving, no hesitation, doing exactly what they need. It would take 4 turns and 9 dice rolls. So this is what would happen. One player would move around the board very quickly, rolling just right to immediately buy Boardwalk and Park Place and spend all their money and buy houses, as many houses as they could for them. The other player unfortunately draws the chance card that sends them right to Boardwalk, and they literally don't have enough money at the start to pay for the houses.
Wow. That is
That was discovered by a Notre Dame
thing.
professor.
See,
That was like he was trying to kill the stigma that Monopoly takes too long, so he's like, all right, I'm gonna figure out
so
how quickly
dumb.
you can actually win.
no, wait.
Hold on,
this is
hold on.
dumb.
Let's go with averages here, but no, screw that. I'm a professor. Let's go with the most outlier case I can possibly think of. The game's amazing and it's short. I'm from Notre
Yeah, so this
Dame.
is literally
Fighting
his
Irish.
argument that people shouldn't say Monopoly takes too long because he's like, you can win in 21 seconds if this exactly happened.
Wow.
Well, you know what? If a football game can be won before the snap even shows up, if their bus breaks down on the way there and they forfeit. So, like, oh, well, I guess football games are the fastest fucking games in history. Like, no, that's dumb. That's so dumb. I hate this guy. I'm like, he's a professor. You have better things to do with your time, man. You have a doctor, for God's sake.
No, he teaches. He's a professor at Notre Dame. He's got all the time in the world. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. I mean, they're too busy spray painting their helmets again.
Number 15. What famous guru for the board game industry actually only ever invented one board game, and which game was it?
The guru invented
So who is the person and what game did they invent?
Yep. His name is first name John, middle name Board, last name Game. And he invented the Game of Life.
No, it was Milton Bradley, and it was Guess Who?
Ooh, snap.
It was Dave Coulier and Cut It Out.
Cut it out.
So Craig and Brian are each going to get 1 point. So the answer is Milton Bradley, and he invented the Game of Life.
Hey.
And so his name
nice.
is on tons of board games, and that's literally all he did.
Huh.
He was like, hold on, let's make a game with suicide, poverty. And they're like, Milton, just chill out. We'll take it from here. We'll put your name on there. You'll get residuals. Just go into your office. Play on the internet for a while.
That's probably exactly what happened. Number 16. The standard deck of cards as we know it actually originated from what country?
I'm going to say, you know what? Let's go with Romania.
Let's go with Norway.
I'm going to go with Rome.
All right, the answer is France.
Close.
So cards have been around for thousands of years, originating as far back as China, but the French version is actually the one that got adopted as the standard that we now use.
Oh, so that's why it originally started on a white piece of paper that was roughly the shape of a flag.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
All right, last question. The face cards were designed to look like historical figures. Which 4 men are represented by the kings in a deck of cards?
Ah.
I will give bonus points if you give the correct suit also, but I'm not looking for that.
So you're saying that the kings are supposed to be representative of literal kings?
Yes. Well, just historical figures.
Okay, historical figures.
I guess most of them were, but it's 4 historical figures that they were modeled after.
The 3 wise men and someone else from the Bible. There you go.
Jesus.
No, he wasn't a king. I'm saying that
He was king of the Jews.
well,
Come
okay,
on.
well, there you go.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh, that
There
was
you go.
someone else from the Bible.
I couldn't think of one other king from the King Solomon. Sure, there it is. There it is. That's the 4th one. I knew I could get it
I
somehow.
love you, Brian. Oh shit, that was good.
I'm going to go with Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Clark Kent, and Bruce Willis.
I knew it.
All right, I'm gonna go with King Richard, King John, King. No, okay. Those first 2, let's just keep them there. King Richard, King John. Let's go with Alexander the Great and Caesar.
There it is.
Okay, Burke's actually going to get 2 points because he did get 2 of the 4. So the King of Hearts is supposed to be Charlemagne. The King of Diamonds is Julius
Charlemagne?
Caesar. Yep. The King of Diamonds is Julius Caesar. The King of Clubs is Alexander the Great, and the King of Spades is King David from the Holy Bible.
Hey, I said a Bible guy.
You got a son.
I'm not taking
You got a
somebody
son.
else
I said
from
some
the Bible.
guy.
He got a son. He was pretty close.
That's true.
That's pretty close.
That was true. I was in the ballpark.
All
awesome.
right, fine. You can get half a point for that.
I'll take it.
Oof.
He had half his DNA.
That's true. So we utterly destroyed this quiz, I think.
Oh yes. Do we want to hear results?
Please.
Okay. Coming in last place because he bragged about it, and it's Craig Van Wagner.
Wow, jinxed for the lose.
With 4.5 points. Coming in first with a total of 8 points. It's none other than me.
Hey!
Nice.
That last one apparently kicked me up into first because Brian had 6.5.
Wow.
Oh no, we got to do it next time where you say the second runner up was, and then the first runner up was, and then we spotlight the person that won. Oh my god, yes!
What is this, American Idol or something?
I'm pretty sure that's it's some other I literally can't think of the contest name.
Miss America.
There we go. Or Miss Universe, or whatever those types of things are. One of those. Yeah. One of those. That's how they do those. That's how we're gonna do that from now on.
Yes.
They don't announce the winner. They announce the second runner up, and then they announce the first runner up. So Burke, that's what you're doing from here on out. You're Miss America in this shit.
Wait, whoa. First off, I guess I don't understand. I've never watched those shows, but really ever. So do they really don't announce the winner?
Well, eventually they're like, oh, because they go, oh, hey, it's and our second runner up is Craig, and I go, oh, that means I'm third, but in this case, it means I'm last. In our second runner, or in our first runner up is, and then they drum roll, because once you know who the second runner up is, that leaves one person.
Yeah, so but shouldn't you just declare the winner?
I don't know about why they do it. That's just the way they do it.
It's a beauty pageant, and you're hung up on sense. That's the stupid thing that they do.
Well, okay, no. Everything else I can live with as far as in general, but it seems like that's a dumb concept, because then you always have to have it down. Yeah, that's dumb.
Yes.
I thought there was.
That's why the shows last 3 hours long, because it's all about the suspension.
Oh, I've never watched them, so I didn't realize they were even 3 hours long.
I don't even know if that's true. I'm sure they last days.
I don't know how long they are. I just know that's how they announce them.
It's like a game of Monopoly. It lasts 3 hours plus. And at the end of it, no one really wins.
Because everyone just got dunked on. Laugh, bitches.